I have indeed, and Sue, but never lived next door to Alice. Listening to that song, I wish I had it. Madonna. She sounds like a good sort.
She sure does.
Now, natural
Yeah.
tablets, powders, whatever, to build up your immunity, what are they?
Well, you want things that help to boost your white blood cells from the bone marrow and from the spleen and from the thymus gland. So different supplements do different white blood cells. So for example, if you need something that's antibacterial, you need to increase your neutrophils.
Stop there for a minute. Now,
Yes.
white blood cells, I thought there was only one.
Okay, so there's 5 different types. So neutrophils are the big ones. They're probably, so it and the monocytes are the biggest white blood cells. And neutrophils you're supposed to have the most of. So you're supposed to have between 40 and 60% of neutrophils, but up around
Do
60.
they do most of the work? Or?
It's because we've got more bacteria in our body than anything else. So they're fairly slow to grow. So they take about 3 days to be released from your bone marrow, your spleen, your thymus gland. So it takes a little time for your body to be able to create the antibody for the bug you've got. So that's one thing. Secondly, they last in the body for the longest. So they're in there for months. They can be in there for months. But they're actually useless for about once they're born, they take about 3 days to be useful at all. So they sort of are whizzing around the body, collecting information.
Just hang around watching the big boys do
well,
their stuff.
It's very cute looking at white blood cells because what they end up doing, because, we look at them on the TV screen under the scope sometimes. So if you get a white blood cell and then another white blood cell and they come together and they join, that's when the more experienced white blood cell is giving information to the younger white blood cell about what it needs to know what to do in the bloodstream. It's incredible.
They sit down and have a little chat.
They do. It's like a neutrophil kiss. It's very cute.
Right.
And then, so we've got most of them, so around the 60%, and then we've got the second most popular white blood cell is the lymphocytes. Now, lymphocytes are smaller. Once again, I'm thinking on my TV screen, they're about half the size of the neutrophil.
They're related to lymphatic cancers.
They are. So when we get lymphomas, we've got too many lymphocytes in the bloodstream.
Oh, the exact opposite to what I would have guessed.
Well, yeah, so it's quite often when you're having a look, if there's way too many lymphocytes in the bloodstream, doctors will often check for cancers, blood cancers. But we also get too many lymphocytes in the bloodstream when we've got a big bad virus. So, and there's a couple of different ways that you can see lymphocytes. So they're antiviral more than anything else. They are a grey white blood cell, so they're actually paler than the neutrophils. And they get these, when they're busy and they've eaten something really dangerous, like just say a big nasty virus like Ross River virus or, let's face yellow fever or Epstein-Barr or something like that, then they end up growing this little bubble around the outside of themselves. So they're called atypical lymphocytes. And it's like having a space helmet on the white blood cell.
That traps the
viral particle
inside.
in it. Yeah, so what it's doing, it's saying, there's something really narky in here, and that cell doesn't have any oomph left to do anything else for you, and then it's trying to protect your bloodstream from those viral particles that it's picked up.
What an amazing study.
It's pretty cool. So quite often, even if someone hasn't had Ross River or glandular fever for 5-10 years, if they've still got chronic fatigue and we look at their blood, sometimes you actually see a lot of these atypical lymphocytes. Not always, but sometimes we do, which is an indicator that the virus is still in the system creating havoc.
So what's something that then enhances the productivity of these cells?
Yeah, so with
them?
the lymphocytes, so antiviral, you're looking at things like super mushroom extracts. So the things like reishi and shiitake and those sort of medicinal mushrooms that are known to boost white blood cells. So you can get supplements that actually have... They're called, there's Coriolis, there's quite a lot of them.
That,
So basically getting some of those super mushrooms, they're very well known to boost the lymphocytes, the antivirals. Things like vitamin C. Back in 1978, there was a Nobel Prize given to some guy who found that it actually helped with the swine flu. So he had some people with the swine flu and he just gave them masses, and I'm talking masses of vitamin C, but it was enough so that it actually got the swine flu under control.
Well, do you remember Kenrick Tucker, the track cyclist?
Name rings a bell.
Now, I think he was, I know for a fact he was with the Rockhampton Airport Fireys. But he got very sick. I think he had glandular fever, like a lot of top athletes get, especially swimmers.
Yes.
And Lady Salinto looked after him, and she put Kenrick on massive doses of vitamin C and he was able to perform at the Commonwealth Games.
Yeah, right. So probably vitamin C infusions. I'd love to have a
I don't know, but you could probably research that.
Yeah.
I'm sure to be documented somewhere.
Because if you get a doctor who knows how to do vitamin C infusions, they're not cheap, as most things aren't, but it's sort of the sort of thing that when people have, you can have big side effects of it as well. You know, like everything, if you do anything in a dose of a drug, so a huge dose,
over the top, yeah.
because what they tend to do is about 25 grams of vitamin C, or maybe it's 50 grams of vitamin C per infusion. So if I was taking a big hefty dose of vitamin C just in tablets, I might take, say, 5 or 6 grams a day. You know, they talk about, okay, let's talk bowel tolerance. There's this thing called bowel tolerance with vitamin C. So basically, if you are wanting to do a big chunky dose, haha. So you keep on, sorry about that, people. So you keep taking more and more vitamin C every day until you start to get a little bit of diarrhea. So that's called bowel tolerance of your vitamin C levels. So the higher dose you can do, it's actually more beneficial for you if you were trying to use that as a supportive treatment in, say, cancer or lymphoma or chronic fatigue or something where you just keep getting sick over and over again. So it's not a bad idea if someone feels like they've been sick. You know, working with a professional is always a good idea, but it is except for the diarrhea, it's a safe treatment to try at home.
If you know the point where to stop before you get on that long
flight,
flight,
people know that, yeah. People hit that point and they go, that's my point. I'm a 9 gram a day girl.
Drop back
Yeah, that's right. And it really is. And then you drop back a gram the next day and sort of see how that goes. And that's sort of your tolerance level. And basically that can help with things like chronic urinary tract infections and all sorts of fantastic things. And enough vitamin C also helps to break down the biofilm. So the biofilm is that stuff in the gut, in the lungs, in the brain, in the sinuses. It can be in the abdominal cavity that holds old infections. So we've chatted about that before, and that's why a lot of the time when we know we're sick and we're getting blood tests, the tests don't show things up because it's not in the blood, it's in the biofilm.
Which is all sealed up.
Which is totally separate, yeah. So you need to break that down. So that's why when you are doing something like a big dose of vitamin C, once again, going back, things like olive leaf extract boosts both neutrophils and lymphocytes. Things like andrographis is a herb that is more specifically antiviral. It's also a really big liver tonic, so some people feel quite nauseous if their liver isn't working, and all of a sudden you do something like a big dose of andrographis and you're feeling nauseous. It's a sign that your liver gallbladder really hasn't been functioning. So therefore, when you're taking the big dose of andrographis, you're releasing bile that's going into your gut. If you're on an empty stomach, bile isn't meant to be in an empty stomach. Bile's meant to be in there when you're having a fatty meal. So it's sort of, yeah, so andrographis is another. So these things are really fantastic at boosting the white blood cells.
All right, I'm going to ask you very shortly. I'll ask you now and you can think about it. You're going to compete
Yes.
in a, let's say, a triathlon, a fairly lengthy one. A young person wants to be at their best.
Yes.
I want to know what should they do, apart from a good, sensible diet, what should they do just to give themselves that little edge, apart from illegal substances?
Tick.
We've got the news coming up at midday.